Hi, this is Charles Hoskinson broadcasting live from warm, sunny Colorado. Always warm, always sunny, sometimes Colorado. Today is February 22nd, 2022. You know what? February 21st, but in a few hours it'll be February 22nd. We'll probably spend midnight together. Who knows? We'll see how long this goes. I am back from Louisiana. I am back from a lovely weekend pre-Mardi Gras in Nolens. We had a bunch of new legal people we hired, operations and other people for different domains because the complexity of our company has grown so much. And poor Joel, our chief counsel, is overloaded with the volume. And so we said, hey, it'd be really fun as a team building exercise, bring everybody down Louisiana, all get to know each other. So we lovely time eating beignets and redfish and lots of crab and interesting seafood. And boy, it was fun. I really enjoyed it. It was nice to see people down in Mardi Gras. We had some paparazzi down there. Some people were following me around, not sure why or who they were, but that was interesting. And it just shows you what happens when you start getting a little bigger. People start taking you too seriously. But it was a lovely time. Love the jazz, love the piano bars, and I live streamed a few things. There was one song we played, "Hey Jude," which is a McCartney song, but I know the only Beatle that I'm acquainted with is John Lennon's son, Sean Lennon. So I tweeted it at him. I said, "That's for you, Sean." It's one of the good ones because that was the only Beatles song the guys at the piano bar knew how to play. Well, anyway, it's an interesting day. A lot of things have been going on. The Ukraine situation has profound geopolitical implications, and it scared the international markets. It's very curious to me that cryptocurrencies run counter-cyclic to the. My belief is cryptocurrencies should run counter-cyclic to the stock market and all these other places, but instead they're running in pair. So as the Dow Jones goes down, as the Nasdaq goes down, as markets fall, and there's fear in the markets, Bitcoin also goes down. Bitcoin's down 15% this week. It tends to drag everything down with it, rising tides and falling tides. It makes no sense at all because if the world's going to war and we're worried about inflation and chaos and tragedy, you would think that the opposite would be true, that as instability occurs here, that crypto assets are a safe haven. They're a put on world security and trust in institutions, so they should go up. So I think it's a combination of overheated markets last year combined with some institutional pairing and some retail fear together. Unfortunately, what this means is that everything just goes to hell really quickly. Easy up, easy down. People love the ups, but they forget the downs. And predictably, there's been a tsunami wave of criticism coming to Twitter and other channels saying, do something! Save us! Save us! Like, first, guys, it's a decentralized ecosystem. If it's truly decentralized, no one has the power to save you. The ecosystem is going to save itself. Honey Badger doesn't care. And more importantly, nothing can be done at any event. If today a cryptocurrency announced a partnership with Microsoft or Google and said it's going to be at the Windows standard or the Android standard cryptocurrency, you'd see a short-term spike, and within a week, the gains would be gone. They'd evaporate. Macroeconomics and geopolitical fear eat markets for breakfast. That's just the reality. Look at COVID. When it came out in 2020, everything went to hell. It was blood in the streets. And tomorrow is probably going to be a real tough day for the markets. And that's just where it's at. So that's why you have to zoom out and say, why are we here? What are we doing? And realize that if there's real use and utility and a real purpose in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, things are going to look better and significantly better than they were 5 years ago. That's always been true for Bitcoin. That's increasingly been true for Ethereum. And it appears to be true for Cardano because these are real projects with real purpose and real community. And the stable people, the smart people, you know who you are. Nothing more needs to be said. It's just sad because you feel like you're making progress, you're finally getting adoption, and then you see these kinds of things. However, what's going on in Ukraine and elsewhere in the world where there's instability, like Sudan and so forth, is just a testimony to the need for cryptocurrencies and why we're here. At any given moment, cyber attacks or authoritarianism can shut off your money, can seize your assets, can shut off your right to vote, can destroy your identity, rewrite your identity, these types of things. It's true that these powers will always be abused by the powerful. So you have to say, well, isn't it about time we take back our lives? Isn't it about time we take back our sovereignty, become self-sovereign individuals? Isn't it about time that we be our own bank and be our own institutions so that we don't have to live in fear that all the things we've achieved and gained can be taken from us so quickly? And that's the lesson to learn here. And I think the world as a whole will become increasingly more aware of that lesson. And it's going to eventually work its way through. And if we're right, what that translates to is global adoption of cryptocurrencies above and beyond a few tens of millions of people, but billions of people and entire circular economies that live within that bubble. And a lot of good things to come. We got a great update coming soon for Cardano, and then come June, there's going to be the Vossel hard fork, and then the next hard fork will occur October. And with that, you have SIP 31, 32, 33, you have pipelining, you have input endorsers, you have a lot of great technology. And the brass tacks is it's commercial technology. There's no more theory here. Security is achieved. The network's at scale. We've demonstrated it survives under enormous load and doesn't shut down. What that effectively means is now it's time to turn on the commercial stuff, meaning 10x's of performance here and there, and all the kinds of things and expressiveness that are required for the next wave of dApps. There are over 500 projects now building on Cardano. That's incredible because the last time I checked 2 weeks ago, there were 300. And I got the numbers today and I said 500. Wow, that's crazy. So Cardano's open for business. We're going to be at Consensus down in Austin, Texas. We'll negotiate that out. And we're going to bring a lot of people with us. Not us, just IO and CF, but the ventures that are building. So we'll work something out. We'll announce something. If you want to come with us and showcase what you're building, what you're doing, we'll have a hackathon down there. We're really going to show everybody who we are, what we're doing. And then in October, I'd love to go back to Bermuda 8 years later for my TED Talk and talk about what we achieved in the last 8 years as an industry and Cardano in particular as a product and what it's done for the developing world, where we're at. There's a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of lies. There's a lot of people floating around just telling you garbage, verbal diarrhea. And you always have to take a step back and ask, who are these people? Why do they say what they say? Sometimes it's fear. Sometimes it's because they have commercial interests, and sometimes they're just misinformed and they go run with it like a town crier babbling to everybody, ringing the bell. And other times there's strong financial incentives that pervade to create narratives. For example, there's a work of fiction coming out tomorrow. It's a book by an author who shall remain nameless, and it absolutely eviscerates many of the Ethereum founders, myself included. And it's just a really unfair book. It's a work of fiction at the end of the day, and probably some truth in it, some inconvenient truths for some, and a whole lot of speculation and innuendo and insinuation. And that's just a example of perverse incentives. You see, you dial that up, such a book becomes a movie. And if you get lucky as the author, it becomes the next Social Network with your Justin Timberlake and all-star cast, Oscar awards, and more importantly, millions of dollars of profit for the author. That's the economy we live in. I think the Kardashians have been on for more than 15 seasons. We love to watch the lives of the rich and famous. We love to watch the lives of the powerful and infamous, and we love to have heroes and villains. We love stories. It's who we are as people. There's nothing materially different in psyche from the tribes sitting around the fire 10,000 years ago and us today. You take someone born then, you raise them today, they'd look and sound exactly like you and me. You take someone born today, you raise them there, they'd look and sound a lot like a Paleolithic person. Just that simple. And the one unified thread is storytelling. That's what got the human race through its at. So you have people with their exits and their entrances and their villains and the heroes, and there's marketplaces for these things. But the story that we should all remember is the story that we have dominion over our own lives and we are capable of achieving liberty and freedom. That's what I care about, and that's what I've become increasingly more concerned about. Many of you notice I've become a little bit more political during the age of COVID. It's because we are creating, through mandates, second-class citizens. We've taken a group of people and we said, if you don't do something, then you can't go to a restaurant, you can't go to a bar, you can't go to a coffee shop. And we never really set a condition of what we're really worried about. And I'm just not really comfortable with the idea that society gets to create second-class citizens. That's why people protest. And then when they do, they get silenced and speech gets destroyed and informed consent, which is the bedrock of medical ethics, gets challenged. And that's just one thing. There are many things going on. There are many lies going on, and people have an all-time low opinion of and trust of institutions, whatever those institutions may be. And when their political party wins, they don't seem to have much problem with it. When their political party loses, the institutions are intrinsically dangerous and corrupt. And the reality is that there's collusion on both sides behind the veil to rob you of your money. That's what's going on. We've witnessed the largest wealth transfer in history the last 2 years between the poor to the rich. And that's not going to stop unless the systems change and the institutions change. It's just that simple. The whole point of what we do as an industry is to change things. You think maybe it's a good idea for us not to have Putins and Xis. They would have never been able to come to power if there were governments of integrity and principles. Problem resolves itself. You think it's a problem that we have certain people in the White House, pick your favorite political side. Those people would have never come to power. We did politics differently. You'd have different leaders and different incentives. But we have what we have. And now wars are breaking out. Markets are uncertain. Inflation is very pervasive. And a lot of people are very scared. So you have a choice to make when you're scared. As terrifying as it can be. You can take a step back and survey the entire situation, orient yourself, observe, and try to come up with some way of moving forward, however terrifying that is, and believe that whatever course of action you're taking is going to get you to higher grounds in a better world, or you can just give up. There was an experiment that was done at Harvard many decades ago when they didn't care as much about medical ethics, where they took some rats and they dunked them in water and they let them sit in these vats of water, and they timed how long the rats would swim before they gave up and just decided letting themselves drown. And so they left them in the vats for 15 minutes on average, and the rats would give up. Right before they drown, they'd rescue them, dry them off, let them recover a little bit, and then dunked them in the water again, see how much longer they'd last on the second try. Most people, if you ask them, guess how long you think the rats would last the second time they've been dunked in the water, would say, I don't know, probably less time, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, they're tired, kind of get a little hopeless. It was the opposite. 60 hours, 15 minutes to 60 hours. Why? Because the rats had hope of being saved. The lesson is hope is a powerful thing. Belief is a powerful thing. So powerful that it has the power to sculpt nations. Wasn't too long ago that a bunch of people got a crazy idea in their head that because they were really pissed off about political grievances, lack of representation, encroachment of their rights and liberties, they decided to declare a revolutionary war against the most powerful nation on the planet and fought a brutal conflict without proper rations or clothing or ammunition. and through sheer force of will, tamed an empire. And from that was born a nation, an imperfect one with many problems that still is imperfect, but that's where we came from as a people. We were born of hope and a belief that we could get something better. So, in many ways, that's the point of this industry. Take it or leave it. You can hate anybody you want. Plenty of founding fathers in America. You think they all got along? John Adams and Thomas Jefferson probably stab each other with knives at some point in their lives. I mean, for heaven's sakes, Aaron Burr shot Alexander Hamilton. Not exactly the best of friends, although Jefferson and Adams did become at the end of their life, which is so extraordinary. But despite the fact that they didn't get along all the time, especially didn't get along, they found a way to set it aside and figure out a way forward. We as an industry have to do better. And some people want to focus and monetize on the past or the present, and some people just want to grab as much as they can for their own interest and leave the rest of us to drown. But I'd like to believe most people, when they see a problem, are willing to solve that problem. Cardano is a reflection of your efforts, my efforts, and the efforts of millions now. 500 dApps building, 3 million assets issued, an ecosystem and economy to a better world. We did our part. We did all the research. We figured out how to get protocols that actually work. And believe it or not, I had a few things to do with it, but some people say no. And now it's a part of the community with us to take it to the next level. I do less AMAs today than I have historically because they're less relevant. It's no longer the guy sitting on the mountaintop preaching the sermon. I'm just your friend. I'm here. We grew up together. We know each other. And it's fun to talk to you, especially when there's sometimes fear and panic or things don't work out the way that we think it's going to work out, because we're all in this together. We're on the same boat. Whether it's a bad market day, a good market day, I'm here. And nothing gives me more pleasure and happiness than to talk to you guys and spend time with you guys and gals. You're really just exceptional people. And you've changed my life. You've changed my perspective. You give me hope. I often ask, why do you keep swimming? You don't need to anymore. I swim because of you. And I think I'll last a lot longer than 60 hours, I'll tell you that. Year by year, I get tired and worn down. The constant criticism, the politics of personal destruction, all the hate, negativity, toxicity, all the things that people say and do, all the threats. I have security now. Never used to have that. Now I do. I have no privacy anymore. Everywhere I go, I'm tailed and followed. I endure all of that because at the end of the day, we together have a seat at the revolution. We get to change the world together. Some people get to be officers, and some people get to be soldiers, and some people get to be legislatures, and some people are just well-wishers, here to add some support. And that's pretty special. I don't know of anything I can do in my life that's more meaningful than this. I don't want to be a spectator when nations get invaded and people's rights get trampled and the world goes to hell and the money in my pocket loses 20% of its value every year. I don't want to be a spectator in a castle somewhere living a gilded life, saying poor peasants. That's the greatest evil a man can ever embrace, indifference to the suffering of others. I got to be there in the arena. Sometimes right, sometimes wrong, but always in the arena, always fighting, always ready, always prepared, because that's just who I am. And there's a hell of a lot of people listening right now who are exactly the same. And when you put them together, you got an army. And as long as you have an army, well-trained, not well-trained, well-supplied, not well-supplied, as long as you have an army, you got a chance. And that's all you need to keep swimming. So we're going to win. All right. You listened to me rant for 20 minutes, and now it's your turn. Let's talk. Let's see your questions.